So I know also that AXA also has a food bank, and there's a lot of, I guess food bank is so far, I guess, people's biggest answer to food insecurity. But what's your take on food banks? Because I've read a lot about those. What's your take on food banks?
So food banks, what I've heard, what I've read about them, and times in my life when I've had to go to a food bank, they're great. They're great band-aids for a short-term situation, but if someone is chronically underpaid or chronically can't make ends meet, relying on food banks for an extended period is tricky, because what you receive from the food bank is inconsistent. Often it does not include fresh food, and often it's still it's not, you don't have access to choice, right? You can't choose. There's no freedom to choose what you want exactly, not like in a grocery store. So I mean, food banks are our band-aid solution to food insecurity, and I think they do the minimum level of support that people need, but as we all know, it's really not enough. Like if all these people from our neighborhood, from our community, from our city are still food insecure, it shows a huge gap in what food banks can provide.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of talk about food banks, gardens, cooking programs and such. If you were to wake up tomorrow and the food security problem was solved, what do you think, like, would they have implemented during the night to actually have fixed it, so to speak?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
This won't be a really sophisticated answer, because I'm not sure about, there's got to be many structural and policy changes to make things happen. But if I could wake up and have my dreams met or something, they would involve like food. The price of food would be greatly reduced for people, so they can buy it more. But also farmers would be greatly subsidized by the government, so that they can make their own good living without having to sell food at a price that they can't sustain themselves on. Right?
Okay.
And let's see. What else? There'd be more growing spaces. I know having a garden does not mean one is food secure.
Yeah.
But it helps people have control over where they get their food from.
Yeah.
Because right now we're forced to buy food from the big ag system, the big agriculture, which does not farm in sustainable ways. Like there's plantations of of nothing but pineapple in certain parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
And monocultures are not sustainable at all. So I guess in a nutshell, food prices wouldn't be as expensive. Maybe food would one day be considered a human right, therefore free.
Yeah.
And farmers who make the food, who grow the food for us, would their living and their wages would be supported by the government.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that, especially too, like from my perspective, like I've watched a ton of documentaries. I also kind of wanted to touch on this. I watched a ton of documentaries about how how it's beneficial to be on a plant-based whole food diet, and that like organic produce obviously is better for you. And you mentioned how before, like right now we're in a Toronto community housing area, and I've looked around and I can't find my Whole Foods or my Farm Boy. So I think it's interesting that unfortunately, like a lot of mostly this population probably couldn't afford, like we have the no frills around here and stuff like that, or food basics, but I noticed that there's no Whole Foods around here, and so there's not a huge selection of organic produce, and I think unfortunately people kind of miss out on that, because there's obviously noted benefits, but unfortunately where do you get it? You don't have access to them, right? So I find that interesting. Is there any things that you're planning to do in the future that would, do you think, help that? At least give people, or give people not only food but even better food. Essentially, stuff that doesn't have pesticides and all that fun stuff with it.
Well, I agree. That's a huge gap. There's nowhere to access organic, healthy food at a lower cost here.
Mm-hmm.
So to remedy that in this area, we're gonna be having a few farmers markets.
Okay.
So not markets, but not farmers markets, but produce markets where
Okay.
we're hoping to buy wholesale organic produce and then sell it to the community at
Okay.
a much lower cost.
That sounds interesting. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you, Al, for taking the time to interview with us and show us the garden. It's much appreciated. And again, folks, we have Al from Agincourt Community Services Association. So thank you, Al.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty. Have a good day, peeps.